I was like, why don't you use your freaking Go-Go Gadget sleeves and just snatch it out of the air? I don't understand why you needed to take the arrow in the ass.
Go Gadget, please.
Welcome to the What's Our Verdict podcast, where we fashion ourselves cinematic judge and jury. My name is JJ Crowder. I'm here with my co-hosts, Mattson Heiner.
Better red than dead.
Javier Ortiz.
What is up, my nerds?
And Ian Anderson.
Some shit.
Do you ever find yourself wondering if you should spend the time, money, or both on a movie? Well, we're here to answer that question for you. Each week we put a movie on trial, discuss the facts, pass judgment, and let you know our verdict. We do appreciate any help growing the podcast. Go ahead and hit that follow or subscribe button. Tell a friend. Go check out our website. Subscribe to our email list for exclusive content and updates. Today we're reviewing the live-action remake of Mulan. It was released September 4th, 2020. It was directed by Nikki Caro, written by Rick Jaffa and Amanda Silver. It stars Liu Yifei, Donnie Yen, Li Gong, Jet Li, Jason Scott Lee, Yoso An, and Tai Ma. It's about a young Chinese maiden who disguises herself as a male warrior in order to save her father. If you're joining us for the first time, we do start out with a spoiler-free review where each of us will provide some quick thoughts on the film, provide you with a rating based on a 3-tiered scale. We've changed it a little bit this week because it's not in theaters. It's only available streaming. So normally we do Worth It, Stream It. This week we're going to still do Worth It, Stream It, Skip It. But Worth It means it's worth the $30 you need to pay in addition to your Disney Plus in order to watch this movie right now. Stream It, meaning wait until you can watch it on Disney Plus without the $30 premiere access. And finally, Skip It, meaning just that. You don't need to watch this movie, so go ahead and find something else to watch and spend your time doing. Maybe some yard work or something. Who knows? So with that being said...
Screw pulling weeds, JJ. That might be my new barometer. I'd rather pull weeds than watch this movie. That's a bad movie.
So with all of that being said, let's jump into our spoiler-free. I'll kick this one off. I'm kind of in a unique situation from the three of you youngsters. So you guys were all kids when this movie came out. I was a junior or senior in high school, depending on the time frame. I didn't look at when it was out. So I didn't actually see this movie until I was probably almost 30 years old, watching it with my niece, the cartoon version, right? It was never something that was on my radar because at that time I just wasn't watching Disney animated films for the most part, unless it was going back and revisiting the ones from my childhood. So I didn't, like I said, I didn't see this, and I only saw it once. I watched it with my niece when she was very young. So yeah, this one I wasn't like hyped about like I have been for a couple of the others. So for me, while it was an interesting film and I really like the meat of what this movie is about, like the storyline, I like the messages that are trying to be told. I don't always love the way that they are told. I feel like it lacked heart to me, if I'm being honest. Like I didn't really get into this movie. I didn't find myself excited for any of the protagonists for the most part. The best acting and most intriguing character to me was one of the antagonists, being the witch. So I didn't love this movie is what I guess I'm trying to say. So for me, I'm just going to give it a flat out stream it. And I only say that because I'd give it a skip it if it weren't for the fact that it's got a great message. And I think especially I don't have kids, but I do have a couple of nieces, and for them to be able to see an empowered couple of women who are aren't allowed, they take what they deserve and show their power and strength. So I really think that's important. So for me, that's why I give it a stream it as opposed to a skip it. Other than that, didn't love the movie. Mattson, why don't you go next?
Yeah, as JJ alluded to, I was young when cartoon Mulan came out, and I have seen Mulan a few times. Going into this movie, I knew that there wasn't going to be singing and that they weren't going to have Mushu, which were two massive problems for me immediately going into this film. So I was already skeptical. Having now watched this film, there wasn't, in my opinion, a lot of emotional depth, especially from the main character and the main protagonist, the male individual. His acting was pretty bad in my opinion, but like JJ said, The Witch was okay for me. But if you had told me that this was a movie that they called it something else, and I had maybe seen Mulan one time, there's not a lot of tendencies that truly tie it back to the original Mulan as much as I thought there would be. And so the reason I bring that up is I struggle between saying stream it, wait till you can not pay for this, versus skip it. I think if you're a Mulan lover and like you really like that movie, you're not going to like this movie and you're going to want to skip it. So I think I'm going to say skip it.
Ian.
I think it's really important with this movie that you go in. I didn't check my expectations at the door before watching this. I wanted to see kind of Mulan in the live action one. This is one of the cartoon ones that I was actually excited about becoming live action, just because of the story, and I was like, it's okay, but it's not. Like Mattson kind of said, if you love Mulan, you're probably not gonna love this Mulan because they did switch it up quite a bit. Like Mulan's name is the same, but apart from that, and she goes into the army to protect her father and she saves the emperor. Like those are kind of the same things that if you've seen Mulan, that's the only similarities that I really saw. So it's okay. I'd say it's worth streaming once it's for free. Like one of those watch it at least once type deals. But other than that, like it didn't grab me. It didn't hold my attention as much as I thought it would. But yeah, it's okay.
Javier.
So I like the animated Mulan, so I was kind of looking forward to this, political things aside. Like I was looking forward to this movie. And I knew from the beginning that they came out and they said this isn't going to be your traditional Mulan story, right? Like they didn't have Mushu, they didn't have Li Shang, like the commander, they didn't have, music or whatever. And so I knew from the beginning that they were trying to go for more of like one of those Asian action drama movies, which I love. Like those movies are so fun to me. This, gosh, fell super short of that because it felt like they didn't commit one way or another. Like they kind of wanted to do that, but also they wanted to have some like mystical magic stuff in there. And then they pushed really hard on like the strong women characters, which I think is Disney's downfall. Like they don't know how to portray like strong female leads very well because Mulan in and of herself is an awesome, strong female lead. So that it doesn't need to be milked the way that they tried to milk it. They changed little things that really bothered me, like Mulan's last name. In the animated film, it's Fa. And in this one, it's Hua for some reason. And I don't know if there's an explanation as to like why they did that. But there was just enough little things that bothered me about this. And for what they were trying to be, it's not very good. So I am somewhere between a skip it and stream it. Like, because I'm taking the stance that if you want an Asian action drama, there are better ones out there. And if you want the story of Mulan, there's a better one out there. So I'm not really seeing the reason why you should watch this movie, So I'm going to go with stream it because you're probably curious. Like, you might as well, I guess, watch it. It's not terrible. It's just not great, Yeah. What's that? I'm going to say stream it. Don't pay for it. In fact, like, don't even pay for Disney Plus to watch it. Like, borrow someone's login.
Yeah, like that story that we had Javier tell at one time where he used that lady's Hulu account for a long time. Like, do that.
Yeah. To be fair, I paid for that. So I'm not even saying, don't even do that.
Well, there's our spoiler free. Sounds like it's unanimous. Either skip it or definitely don't pay for it. Wait till you can watch it for free if you're looking to watch Mulan, the live action remake. So with that, let's jump into some spoiler territory. So if you haven't watched this movie and you do plan on it before you dive into spoilers, go ahead and we'll go watch it now, jump back in and pick up where you left off. If you're okay listening to some spoilers, hang out with us. We're about to spoil the shit out of this thing. I'll be honest, guys. Look, I didn't have high expectations going into this thing anyway, because I told Ian earlier before you guys jumped on, I don't like, there's been one live action remake that I enjoyed, and that was Jungle Book. And it was,
me too. I was going to say that. Yeah.
Jungle Book was solid.
It's the only one. And it's funny that was it because, you're looking at, you have Jon Favreau, who was in charge of Jungle Book. He was also in charge of The Lion King, I believe, which wasn't great, but that had everything to do with that movie should just never have been remade to begin with. But Jungle Book was, in my opinion, I liked the live action version as much, if not a little bit more than I did the animated version.
Yeah. You know what I like about that is they took it almost scene for scene. It's like it's a remake of the movie. It's not like a reboot or anything.
And I think that brings up the conundrum that Disney's in, though, because there's some people that want like a reinterpretation of what these live makes are, and they're like, well, why remake scene for scene something that's already well done? And then there's other people that want, so like what we kind of got with Mulan, I think, which was they're trying to create something new but still something relevant to the old movie. And I just feel like sometimes it's a lose-lose situation, because I like Jungle Book and I think I'm more of I want it scene for scene, but sometimes it's like, are we going to make it any better if I feel like it's just going to get worse?
Yeah, it's
Because
tough.
Mulan went so far to the different category, like they wanted a reinterpretation, to where I think most of us are agreeing that it didn't feel like Mulan, and therefore, why do we call it Mulan?
And I think Mulan came with its own set of challenges, right? Because the world is what it is. And let's be honest, China is the second leading movie-going market in the world. If you do not capture the watching in China, you don't make half as much money as you could.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, most movie studios, major movie studios, are leaning into movies that are popular in the Chinese market, because it's very quickly the sheer volume of people in China and the fact that they push movies so much right now. If you don't win China, you don't hit your $1 billion, you don't hit, whatever it is. Movies are making more money in China than they are in the States these days almost. So I really feel like Mulan stepped in some trouble because they had to make changes because of a fear of offending the Chinese population, or at the very least Chinese leadership. And I don't know the intricacies of what that looks like and how much they had to change based on. I know that Mushu is a victim of that. That Mushu, I read in a couple of articles where it was said that Mushu was pulled because they were afraid of the Chinese audiences finding that offensive. So I think Mulan was always going to suffer, at least on the American side of this, because the changes were made in order, and again, this is all speculation, but a lot of what I read, the changes were made in order to appease the Chinese market.
And see, I was okay with that going in. Like, I was okay with them having a different spin and like not having music and not having some characters and really being like this action drama. So like, I was okay with that. But as an action drama, it's disappointing. Like, it's not great. I'm really curious how this did in like the Chinese market, because like, yeah, I'm coming from,
we'll find out.
Yeah, I guess we will. Because I'm coming from that American standpoint who watched the animated as a kid. So those are kind of that's where I'm coming from. So I'm really curious to see how it did with their target audience.
It's tough because I think there was I know there was a lot of potential with this movie, especially in the time frame that we live in right now, because it's such like you were talking about, Javier, having a powerful, strong female lead. That's like in every news article about every movie at this point, like, where's our strong female leads? And I think it's important to have that. And I just feel like this actress fell short. I feel like the strongest female in this movie was
the witch.
The bad guy was the witch.
The bad chick. You know what they need to do? They just need to cast Charlize Theron for any strong female lead character.
Fair enough. If only.
One problem that I actually really did like about this compared to the animated one is the sheer epicness, right? The animated one is way more epic than this one is. Like, considering it's a movie all about war, there's not a lot of fighting going on in the live action Mulan. And they do have that one scene where the two armies clash, right? And it ends with Mulan causing an avalanche. And I'm looking at these armies, I'm like, these are tiny ass armies. There's like 200 people in each army. I'm like, we're talking about like the Imperial army versus like the rebel army. And there's like 2 or 3 platoons of people. It was just not like, it wasn't cool to watch. And I was really disappointed with that. I don't know. Maybe I'm just taking that the wrong way, but honestly, that fight scene in the animated one is way cooler. There's like a sea of
the Huns.
The Huns. Yeah, there's just a sea of them, like, and everyone's like, oh wow, we're in big trouble. And in the live action one, they like crest the hill and there's like a few dozen people. I'm like, what is happening here? I think
part of it for me is they stole the thunder of the main bad guy, the leader of the Roshans, or however you say it, because
they also changed his name. Why would they change his name?
Like, I'm not 100% sure there, but I feel like we were diverted between him and the witch, and this quote unquote like badass leader didn't come across. He just came across as more like comical to me, just because his facial expressions and the way he tried to act just didn't feel like he carried the weight of a true bad guy. Where in like the animated one, that the leader of the Huns, like that dude was scary. He had the scary like curvy sword and the hawk thing, and I was like, bro, that guy could do some damage. Like, watch out. And then this guy was like, I have a witch. She's gonna do it for me, and that's who we gravitated towards.
Yeah, and like they tried to make him brutal, like this army brutal. And in the animated one, they have one scene which haunts me to this day when they capture those 2 messengers messengers. And they're like, go tell your emperor that we're coming and we're going to kill all of you. And they're like, yeah, okay. And they both run away. And then basically Attila, but I think his name's like Shane Yu or something, turns to his archer and he's like, how many people do you need to deliver a message? And then as he cranks the arrow back, he's like, just one. And he just lets it fly. And I'm like, that amazing scene, because you're like, oh yeah, they mean business. And this guy is brutal. But you don't really have that scene in the live action movie. You just have this like dialogue between the witch and the main guy. And the witch is basically like, I could eat you alive right now. And I'm like, wait a second. Who's
Then
the
why
tough
don't
person here?
Yeah.
Well, and she does all the fighting that you see.
Yeah.
Like all the main villain or antagonist fighting that's impressive is done by her.
Yeah.
And again, I get that you're trying to portray a strong woman character, but the problem is she's supposed to be the example for Mulan on how not to do it, right? How not to fall into this trap of allowing her strength and her power to be shunned and then turned to evil because of that. But to be honest, I'm like, why is she not running this joint? Like a little bit of tweak from her personality and she'd be fun to follow. But it's hard for me because that's the whole time I'm like, put her back on the screen because she's entertaining. She's fun to watch. She's interesting. She was the only interesting character in this movie for me.
I guess that's my point, right? Like, why do we have that other dude around? Like, he's not in charge here. Like, what's he doing here?
I didn't like that they ultimately had her turn and save Mulan. In my opinion, I thought that was
I thought it was
cheesy. I was like, if she's really going to be this hardcore, like hardened, I made these choices, this is who I am. I wanted her to own that and stick with that. And I thought maybe she's going to turn on the main bad guy and be like, you know what? I'm running this for myself. That would have been cool with me. I'm like, all right, like she's empowering herself, albeit not in the evil way, but that would have made sense to me with her character where she's like, well, this is my obstacle. Let me get rid of her. So she goes to her extreme. Mulan goes to her extreme. And I would have liked that. But then she gets into her bird and then ultimately gets shot. And my immediate thought after that, I was like, well, he still probably has another arrow. So just shoot her again. But Mulan could have flipped on her horse and redirected that arrow back at him, and that would have it's just so sick.
Yeah, I've been the end of it.
So that's the main problem I had. We spend this whole movie catching arrows, kicking arrows back at people, and then
one arrow,
one arrow that actually finds its mark is against arguably the most powerful person on the battlefield. And she just dives in front of it. I'm like,
I know.
Makes no sense considering all the buildup you just had.
How did you guys feel about the like kicking arrows and spears? Because that kind of drove me nuts.
But I think to Javier's point, if it had been a full like Asian kung fu type movie, because that's some of the stuff that they do, right?
Yeah.
Like
it's outlandish like that. Yeah, it's awesome. It just didn't look good.
If it had been that, like maybe that's okay. But I didn't want that. Like I did not like it. I wanted it to be realistic. So the magic stuff, all this, like I didn't want that. We'll put it that way.
The clothes fighting really just drove me crazy. What even was that? Like the witch, her sleeves like got a mind of their own and started like choking dudes out. And then the emperor also later in the movie grabs some drapes and starts just whipping people with them. And I did not like that. That was real bad. It didn't even look good.
Not gonna lie, my first thought, you guys are talking about when she turns into a hawk and takes the arrow. I was like, why don't you use your freaking go-go gadget sleeves and just snatch it out of the air? I don't understand why you needed to take the arrow in the ass.
Go-go gadget sleeve.
Yeah, that's funny, JJ. We don't really know where that arrow landed on her actual body. That would have been really funny. But like, it's just in your ass. You're okay. You're not dead. You're fine.
Yeah.
Or she could have just caught it as the bird, because they catch arrows apparently
all the time.
Apparently everybody but the super witch can catch arrows. So
I think that's honestly probably one of the things. There's just a lot of discrepancies in how people died, because the main bad guy didn't catch the arrow at the end, but he's caught him before, and it just seems like they pick and choose. Like, you're powerful now. Oh, now you're weak.
Well, she kicked it. That was the difference. It wasn't shot. It was kicked.
Oh.
Yeah. See, I also really hated the shitty Jedi Force crap that they had in here. That they're like, it's chi, and some people know how to harness the chi. And I'm like, this is just the Force. You're talking about the Force, and you're trying to make Asian Jedi. And like, I don't know how to tell you this, Disney, but you're really bad at making Jedi. So maybe you shouldn't try to like reboot that here. Maybe try to do that maybe another time. Maybe make a video game. I don't know, but that like made me mad. I'm like, Disney can't even rip themselves off well.
I mean, I understand why they wanted to talk about chi, but when you think about chi, like it's not about some mystical power. Chi is like harnessing your own energy and being able to find peace and being able to find a calm and then use that calm to your advantage in the midst of a very chaotic situation. So, I mean, chi is a real thing. It's just don't make it, like you say, Javier, don't make it some superpower. Make it what it's meant to be, is that you can find your center and be able to find the power in order to move through some of these crazy situations without it affecting you. Not, I can kick an arrow out of midair.
I think that's what drove me nuts the most about this movie is the chi part, because when you look at like the cartoon Mulan versus the live action Mulan, like in the cartoon it's about her she's beating people at their own games, but it's not because she's stronger, it's because she's more smart, she's able to think through problems, like
She works
the whole
harder.
yeah, she works harder. But in this one it's like, oh no, she's just stronger than everybody. It's like that, I felt like it took away from her character,
And it
but
cheapens the message.
it does,
right? Like she's only the strong female lead because she has powers.
exactly.
Like whereas opposed to the animated one, it says, yeah, she worked harder, she was smarter, she looked at things differently, she was more charming, she was more dedicated, right? She was a better person than everyone else. Yeah.
The other thing that annoyed me is, like her little crew she had in the training camp. Like I remember the one guy that shot the bow and arrow that shot like 3 from one and killed a bunch of people, and he was like the one that seemed to be the most incompetent. Like his whole crew, I feel like they overpowered that whole crew, and I'm like, I was like, why? In the original, these were supposed to be like the doofuses, like that individual was, and they were never supposed to be anyone more than that, and yet they are like just being amazing after what, like 2 weeks of doing that. I mean, it could have been longer, let's be honest, but I don't know. There's just so many discrepancies on what level these people were actually supposed to be, and I think that it bothered me quite a bit. Clearly,
I agree.
And that one fight scene towards the end when who we thought was going to be her boyfriend, but then she ends up turning him down because she's too cool. But they're in that like corridor fighting for what seemed like, I don't know, that seemed like a 20-minute fight scene, and they're still going and going and going, and I don't know. It just made me laugh because I was like, wouldn't this have been done in like 30 seconds? I'm pretty sure those dudes in the black would have just destroyed them, but they can't die. Like nobody died in this movie on the good side. Like everyone was good. The people in like no main-ish character took the bite except the witch.
Dude, so they leave basic training, right? And they're like, we're not finished training, but we got to get to the war, right? And then like 20 minutes later, and then 20 minutes later, Mulan's like, we're going to take this well-trained force to go defend the emperor. Like, what? You guys haven't even finished training yet. Like, what are you talking about? So I totally agree with you, Matt. So like somehow this group of just ragtag morons become this elite fighting squad out of nowhere with no training. So and
I thought the same thing.
Just to add to that, I thought it was funny that she like makes this promise, like, I guarantee you're gonna make it. I'm gonna protect you. And then the battle starts and she takes off on the horse and leaves them all behind.
And everyone that she's with dies. Like,
I will say that scene was pretty cool with the bad guys. Like I did respect them doing like the cool flippy thing on the horse and then shooting arrows. I was like, show me more of that, because that was cool. And I was like,
cool.
It shows the power of these people. But that was like the only cool thing I thought we saw from them.
And that's the other part, like about the main bad guy, like Bori Khan or whatever. In this one, they try to make him like this clever, kind of scheming person, and like the whole idea was to distract the Imperial army so he could sneak in and assassinate the Emperor. But in the animated one, he was just a brute, right? Like he loses that fight and somehow survives with a few of his men, and they're like, you know what, fuck it, let's go kill the Emperor, right? And like I loved that bad guy. That was just like, you cannot stop me. I'm an unstoppable force, and that is so much more menacing than whatever bad guy that they had that was like trying to scheme, but like obviously wasn't very good at it.
He looked like he was from Star Trek, like they had those aliens that have like the big thick like whatever going on in their foreheads. I don't know what happened to him, but I think they pulled him out of the Star Trek universe.
So that actor has actually been in a few Disney things, and he's David from Lilo and Stitch, and that's just the voice I heard the whole time, was just angry David from Lilo and Stitch, and it really threw me off.
Yeah, that actor is Jason Scott Lee. He's been in a lot of Disney stuff. He was on a TV show too, a remake of Hawaii Five-0.
Oh, okay.
because he's actually from Hawaii.
Speaking of actors, I was super excited to see Ip Man in this one.
Yeah.
Donnie Yen.
Good old Donnie
Donnie
Yen.
Yen.
I was actually kind of disappointed with that too.
Oh,
Like
really?
every time. So he had this really cool scene in the beginning where he was like flinging a sword around. I was like, oh yeah, like let's do this. But every time it cut to him fighting in the scene, and he has like some Robotron armor on, and like his movements were like he would kick someone like in the shins, like he couldn't get his leg up to kick, so he was just like kicking people in the shins and like it was probably the worst Donnie Yen fighting I've ever seen.
Yeah, they didn't really lean in on that.
And then Jet Li was in this too, right?
Yeah, he was the Emperor, which
Yeah, I didn't even recognize
the
him.
whole time I'm looking at the Emperor, every time he's on the screen, and I'm like, who the fuck is that? Because it was bothering me. I was like, I know who that is, but I don't know. And then when I was reading through, getting ready, I was like, that was Jet Li for real? I was like, that's the shittiest makeup I've ever seen.
Yeah.
That beard was so crappy looking. It was bad.
Why would you have Jet Li in a movie and then just cover up his face so no one recognizes him?
I don't know.
How does that
So
make
as
sense?
not to distract, that's the only thing I can think of.
One thing we haven't talked about, I want to go to the main character. Her name escapes me, that played Mulan. For me, as I think I alluded to in my spoiler-free review, I just didn't feel there was an emotional connection as I watched. And I think that was also a big downfall of this movie, that there's nothing there that wanted to endear me to her character or cared about her progression or why she was doing this. She just seemed kind of like a walking zombie to me that had this overpowered chi that made it happen, but nothing in the lines that she delivered, from just poor line delivery to just making me believe her as a character, I just thought it felt really flat.
I agree.
I agree. Like JJ said in the beginning, there's not a lot of heart in this movie. I think they try to move through scenes really quickly to set up some sort of base as to why this is all happening. And yeah, Mulan like doesn't really sell it for me. You're just like, honestly, I would have rather see her crippled dad go to war. That would have been awesome.
He might be the best actor in this movie. He at least has the best performance. Because every time he's on the scene, and don't get me wrong, Taima, he's great. He plays bit parts. He's been in like something like 150 films. He's been in a lot of stuff, and everything he's in, he's great. And I'll tell you what, like his face, he does so good because he doesn't have to say much. His face emotes as well as anybody in the business, in my opinion. In this movie, it was great, and I was sad when he was in the movie less than he was, because it like I said, his performance was the only thing that really sold me.
And maybe that's what did it with Mulan. Like her face was just like stone. Actually, JJ, I really think that's a lot of what it was for me. Like there was just nothing. Every time I saw it was the same, just exact expression, and yet she's trying to show more, but it just didn't. I didn't feel it.
No, there was really no sense of urgency from her. Like it was always, oh, I'm going to ride on this horse and then watch everybody around me die. And I'm going to get my ass beat, but I'm going to get up and be honest. And like she goes through so much emotional turmoil throughout this entire movie until she decides, I'm going to be myself, and that has to be good enough or I'm going to die because of it. But I don't believe any of the emotion that should have been there because it's not portrayed well. It's like I said, when she has the fight with the witch in the whatever the hell, bog or acid something, I don't know.
I think it was Yellowstone.
Was it Yellowstone? Yeah. Fucking next to freaking Old Faithful or something. I don't know, but it was the weirdest looking shit. So she's having this fight there, and I'm sitting there going, okay, I don't believe any of this. Like it was not believable to me. I did not enjoy her performance. I didn't enjoy anybody's performance really in this movie.
Also, the message there is so like weird and convoluted because it's like you need to be honest with yourself and true. And the reason why she lost the fight to the witch is because she was pretending to be someone she's not. And so then she threw this little dagger at her, and it cut through her armor and got embedded in the leather that she used to cover up her boobs. And so the only thing that protected her from dying was pretending to be something that she wasn't.
And my little brother brought up that he was confused because he's like, Disney then was portraying you can only be a strong, independent woman when you're now wearing makeup and you're wearing like your skirt armor thing, and now you're like fully powerful in that. And to him, and I was trying to figure out his message, but I was like, well, yeah, it's weird because now she's super powerful when she looks really pretty on screen, is doing all that, and it's like, but is that the exact message that needs to be shown to be a strong woman, or is that also kind of a messed up thing that we're portraying to our audience?
So that's what I mean about Disney. I just don't think they know how to do this. I think they've butchered like strong females so many times, and it's at this point kind of embarrassing to watch.
it bothered me two things. One was very, very childish of me, but the fact that she's in a war. She just got done getting her ass beat, and yet when she's riding her horse back to this fight, she has no dirt, no
Her hair
tears,
is like
no.
perfect.
It's perfectly flowing in the wind. I'm like, are you shitting me? She just rolled around in what looked like yellow mud, and she's perfect. She looked like she stopped and took a bath for the first time in this movie.
Why
like,
did
what
we
the
spend so
fuck?
much time on that? Why did we spend so much time on? Anyway, not going there. Also, to be true to yourself, do you have to shed all your battle armor? Like,
Right?
It's probably a good idea
you're
to keep
still
that.
fighting.
Hey, when you can block arrows with your feet and spears and redirect them, like you want to be a little lighter, Javier. Like, come on now.
Who needs armor?
Yes, I'm just saying, I would love to have more armor, not less armor when I'm charging into battle, regardless of who I am.
She's riding away and throwing that shit on the ground, and I literally out loud went, "Why would you do that?"
So did I.
I was flabbergasted by the fact that she's riding to battle and taking her armor off.
Yeah, like,
Guys,
what?
it was hot. She wanted to be able to breathe.
I guess.
Something.
Especially we were talking about strong and the strength required to do the bucket carry up the mountain. Like,
Oh yeah.
impossible. Like, if you've ever held even just
clearly.
a small amount of weight out from your hands, like, no contest. Like, you're gonna lose. Like, that's
When Mulan did that, Nicole, my wife, was like, "Oh, that's cheating. She's just using her superpowers." And I'm like, "That's actually a really good point."
What is this shit, Marvel? You know what else bothers me about the woman empowerment is at the end of it all, when she shows that she's very competent, she saves everybody's life, even the guy that she almost kills in the avalanche, she still comes through and pulls him out, which I also found very unrealistic because avalanches are not forgiving. You're not just going to ride some horse through a fucking avalanche and pull some
Hey, she
dude out
had
of it.
chi. JJ,
Yeah.
get off
I
her
was
back.
like, I'm not an avalanche expert. Is this how this works?
No.
'Cause I don't get the big deal about avalanches then.
Yeah, no, that's not even remotely. That horse, first of all, that horse would have been like, you can go fuck yourself, and thrown her ass off before it rode into that fucking avalanche. Second of all, so she does all this shit, all that shit aside, she does all this, saves everybody, and then she still kneels down and has to ask this commander permission to be herself. And I'm like, wait, what? And he kicks her ass out and she leaves. And I'm like, why would you? She just saved your ass. And you're just going to be like, oh, yeah, I still need your permission to. I'm like, man, fuck him. If that's the case and you're going to be that cool and he says, no, we're going to freaking do that. I mean, I appreciate the fact that she submitted to the rule of a soldier in the army. But when he says, no, you're done, see you later, I'm not coming back. You can go fuck yourself. I'll go be a badass and do this shit on my own.
That's another example of why, like, she didn't just show up and be like, you know what, I'm in charge here now. Like, why are we pretending like all these men are in charge when you have like super powered women here? Like, if I'm Mulan, I just show up, I'm like, yeah, I just single-handedly destroyed an entire army, so you can kneel before me or I'll kill you all. You know, I just feel like that would just have the same result, you know?
Yeah. I think, you know, that's obviously the extreme on the other side, Javier, but I wanted to see her come in and go, look, I get it. I broke your rules. Obviously, your rules aren't working since I saved your life, and let me show you what we need to do, right? I've earned these people's respect. The men, obviously, these idiots, obviously wanted to follow her, and even continually after the fact that she was shown to be a woman. But just lean into that. If you're going to make this about powerful women, then make her a powerful woman, and don't make her ask permission. Make the changes that are necessary, not by just saving the emperor and him going, oh, she's pretty badass, I want her protecting me and leading a group of men within that, you know, the royal guard, but have her be powerful and just come in and say, no, you guys suck. This is what we're going to do. This is how this is going to happen. Because I just showed that I can ride a horse through an avalanche, bitches.
I'm on a horse.
Did like how that trebuchet came out of nowhere too. These guys are
No
Huns.
shit.
They all like ride on horses, and somehow that just showed up.
Yeah, no one noticed that. Also, it took them, they are dead shots with that thing, except when it counts to kill Mulan. They are blowing apart platoons of people dead center until Mulan is behind like a pile of rocks, and then they overshoot by like a mile and hit the snow.
Who are they? And I'm laughing because I'm like, you just shot all the helmets off the rocks. So if you were tricked by these helmets, they're all dead anyway. So who
Right.
the fuck are you throwing that rock at?
Also, it took Mulan forever to figure out what that trebuchet was for. She's like, she sees it come over the hill. She's like, oh my goodness. And she looks back at her army and she looks back at the trebuchet. She looks back at her army. She looks back and then they launch and they blow it up. She's like, no. What did you think was going to happen?
Well, and where were they keeping that? Like at the top of the hill, it was flat and then a snowy mountain. Where the fuck was that thing? Like you just abracadabra trebuchet. I was like, what the shit? It was
They just
bad.
built it real quick.
Yeah, no shit. Well, and the way they turned it, those things are huge.
Yeah. Dude,
And they
that
just
thing
like
turned on a
4 of them.
dime.
Yeah, 4 of them. We like, hurry and turn this bitch around. It just swings
Hey,
around
they
like it
had
weighs
chi,
5 pounds.
okay? Back
Yeah.
off.
Must
Oh,
be
God.
chi. The trebuchet had chi.
Most of the people in this movie, to be fair and to give them credit, most of the people in the cast in this movie are Chinese or Chinese Americans.
I like that
So,
they did that.
yeah.
Oh,
I
are
mean,
they? Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah. No, I really appreciated the fact that they hired all Chinese cast or Chinese American cast. I appreciated that. Doesn't happen all the time, as we know. But with that, you guys ready to rate this thing?
Let's do this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Javier, why don't you kick us off?
Okay, so I'm gonna keep beating this dead horse a little bit, but it's not a good Mulan and it's not a good action movie. So for the two things that it was trying to be, it's just not good on either one. They didn't commit one way or another. I'm gonna give this like a 1.5, 1.5, because it's honestly not a terrible movie. Like, yeah, it's not awful. It's not terrible, but it's just not good. Like if you're trying to watch any like of those types of movies, there's just better ones out there. So I'm gonna give it a 1.5 because like I guess it's worth watching once. And would I watch this again? Probably not willingly. Like I think if someone tricked me into it, like I wouldn't throw myself out a window to not watch it. I would watch it, but no, I there's no point to watch this again. There's just no point to watch this movie, guys. I just don't know. Like there's better Donnie Yen movies out there. There's better action movies. There's better Mulan movies. Like if you want a message about like strong female characters, just go watch any Charlize Theron movie. Like literally, there's just nothing. They just don't do anything miraculous with this movie. So yeah, that's my review.
Sweet. Ian.
Yeah, to agree with Javier, this is a very bland movie. I mean, it's just kind of okay. I couldn't really get into it. I feel like taking all the characters that kind of are essential to the Mulan cartoon out was, I get why they did that to kind of had a broader appeal to China, but it just didn't feel like Mulan. And I again really didn't like that they kind of gave her a superpower, because it made me think it's not her that's doing it, it's the power. And I think that Mulan, that's kind of essential to the Mulan story, is that Mulan overcame all these obstacles, not just because she had more special powers, but because she outthought them. She figured out another way to do the same thing. She beat them at their game. So I'm going to I'll give it a 2, but more because I really enjoyed like the world that they created. They did a really good job at bringing me in and making me feel like this was the time period and this is kind of what the backdrop was. We didn't really talk about that, but yeah, I'll give it a 2. No desire to rewatch it, but yeah.
All right. For me, yeah, this movie was rough. And again, and here's as Ian was talking, this movie to me was a money grab. That's all it was. It was, here's a chance to, again, remake a Disney classic animated film into a live action film, and we have a built-in audience. It's guaranteed to make money. It's guaranteed to have people go watch it because of what it is a remake of. A very beloved animated film that had great messaging and was done very well. Very entertaining movie. I feel like most of these remakes, that's what this is. It's just a money grab. And I get that. And I respect that. That's fine. If you got to make money and it's a built-in easy way to do it, but don't expect me to sit here and tell people to go see it and enjoy it, because it's not good. It was not well done. With Javier, if you're looking for strong female empowerment movies, go watch The Old Guard. Go watch Atomic Blonde. Go watch Bombshell. Go watch Hannah on the TV show. There's so many options out there right now that are sliding under the radar and aren't being talked about as much as they should be about empowered women. And I think it's a great thing. It's what we need. It's what we should have right now, but this is not the place to get it. If you want that, go watch the original Mulan. Like these guys are all saying, she puts in the work, she does what she has to do, and it's about her, not about her chi and about being tied to a string in a movie. That's yeah. So go watch that. I give this a 1. I won't deny that there were some beautiful imagery. There was some great cinematography in this film, aside from the tiny armies that were very unrealistic.
I just want to bring something up to our audience. You gave She Dies Tomorrow a 0.5, and you
Yeah.
gave this movie a 1.
Yeah, it's bad. I didn't enjoy
Right.
this. There was nothing about this movie except for the dad that I look back on and go, I enjoyed that. I kind of liked the witch, but because she's an antagonist, she's the bad guy, and I still think they made her weaker than she should have been. She's the most powerful person in this, and yet she takes a verbal beating every time she's on the screen, with the exception of when she gives a verbal beating to Mulan. I'm like, if you're going to make her this powerful, make her the villain. Make her the behind-the-scenes villain who's controlling this new guy or this bad guy. I'd have been okay with that, because at least she is given the strength of the power that she exhibits. Whereas she just cleans every time we see the bad guys fighting, she cleans the field of everyone that's in front of her, but then gets a tongue lashing from this idiot that doesn't mean anything. So I just feel like this movie was bad, and I feel like it wasn't done well. I feel like if you're going to watch Mulan, watch the original cartoon. I know people are going to watch it. That's why I gave it a stream at the beginning. Go watch it. You got to get that itch out of your system to say, oh, it's a new live action Disney remake. Go watch it. But
Don't
when
pay
you
for
want
it.
to, yeah, but don't pay for it. But when you want to watch Mulan, go watch the animated version. Even as an adult, it's 100 times better than this at doing what this movie should do. So go watch that. Skip this. Go watch something else for what you're trying to get.
Preach, JJ.
Matt,
Preach.
yeah, it
All right,
frustrates me.
I'll be quick because everyone's already said really what needs to be said. This movie is not like the original. They tried to make it too separate from that, and for me, it fell flat on its face in that type of direction. The main characters, JJ just alluded to, no emotional depth. Nothing really endeared me to the story. It felt like something I was just watching because I wanted to see Mulan. But now that I know that there's no connection to that, this movie wasn't really anything for me. And like Javier said, you want to go watch action movies, plenty of others out there. You want to go watch female empowerment, like you said, plenty of others out there. If you want to watch Mulan, just go watch the cartoon, because this movie is not Mulan. So that's why I said skip it originally. I'm going to stick by that. I'm going to give this movie a 1.5. It's certainly not the worst thing I've ever seen. My little brother Chase was saying worst movie he's ever seen. Let's not forget about She Dies Tomorrow. That movie is just horrifically bad. This movie will entertain you more than that movie immensely. So not the worst thing I've ever seen, but for what it was trying to be and what we expected it, definitely not a good movie. 1.5, will not watch it again.
If this is the worst movie your brother's ever seen, like, I want his life.
Yeah,
He's
no
got
shit.
a great life.
I was talking to Javier yesterday when we were going shoot, and I was like, would I watch She Dies Tomorrow with my little brother just to like prove the point? And I was like, nope, no way. Like, couldn't do it.
No.
Just absolutely no way.
No, you don't need any more dolphin fucking it.
Because I wouldn't even laugh during any part of it. There's no part of that movie that I'd be like, see, this movie sucks. Ha ha ha. I'd be like, can we be done?
Yeah.
Dude, I didn't even want to finish it the first time I
Me
watched
neither.
it. I texted you guys mid-movie. That's what I texted you guys. I'm like, this movie sucks ass. I was halfway through this movie.
So bad. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is our verdict. Take it for what it's worth. Mattson, why don't you tell them where they can find us?
Yeah, so you can check us out at our website at whatsourverdict.com. You can find us on social media on the big three at What's Our Verdict. Come see what we are releasing, what we're going to release, join in the conversation. And you can listen to us wherever good podcasts can be listened to, namely Spotify, Apple, Google, and many others. Give us a look up. We're excited. We got a lot of stuff happening, new movies, TV shows. Give us a listen.
Definitely. Next week, so next Monday, tune in. We're doing Heavyweights.
Yes.
Going back to a classic.
A great movie.
So I might break these youngins' hearts on that one too, but it's been a long time since I've seen that
Dude,
movie.
F
So.
you, JJ. That movie is nostalgic AF.
Yeah, dude, if you could sit here and say that you liked Bill and Ted, you lose all credibility
come
for
on.
any
Yeah,
comedy movie.
That's a very good point. Thank you, Javier.
We'll see. It's been a long time since I've watched this movie.
Me too, actually. It's probably been like over 10 years since I've seen this movie.
Yeah, it's
Javier,
been
we're
at
watching
least
it
that.
together.
So yeah, so check that out next week. Yeah, that's it. Probably keep an eye out for The Boys season 2. That'll be coming soon, at least the first 3 episodes. Yeah, we'll keep that moving forward. So yeah, lots of fun stuff coming up. We appreciate you tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Bye.
Bye-bye now.
Cinemagic out.